Hello, welcome to Simon Lee Miniatures. Thanks for joining me. I'm just doing I don't know, a couple of hour stream. I'll see how I get on today. Um, I'm going to be painting these Blood Bowl Amazon ladies. I'm going to be trying out the new Vallejo Express colours. Well, I guess they're not so new now, but um, I'm going to see how I get on with them. I've only really tried using the black so far, and I was a little disappointed. So um, these have been primed white, so I'm gonna. Oh, there's a few bits. Excuse me. There's a few bits that need touching up, so I'm going to get a bit of white primer. Try and decide which white primer I'm going to use because it's on metal and um, some primers cope better with going on metal, and if I remember rightly, I've got some Createx white primer if I can find it. Sealer white, where are you? No, okay. Well, um, let's see how Pro Acryl's white primer copes with going straight over metal because there's a few bits I need to touch up, but I don't want to be painting. I don't want to be spray priming over it again because it's already been spray primed, and I can't be bothered to get the airbrush out because I'm literally doing a few touch-ups, and it should dry quite quickly because, well, basically because I've got okay, let's try and figure out where I've got to hold my model so I'm on camera. I mean, maybe I should just. I'll tell you what. Let's just airbrush over this. So I'm just going to bring the light up there. See how dark it gets when I cover it. My camera adjusts. I'm just thinking if I turn my light off and cover it. I've got a brand new ring light, a magnifying, and it's really good. And I don't want airbrush overspray getting over it. And it comes with this cool, like, thing to cover it with. I can't remember the name of the company. I bought it when I went to UK Model Expo. Absolutely fantastic. So, okay, it's coming out quite bright on TV. So, uh, oh, just looking on my phone. I was told to paint them a specific way. I need to look that up really. Okay, I was just making sure I could be heard on stream then. Right, that's cool. Right, so different skin tones. Okay, that's cool. I've got yellow, green, and blue uniform. Lots of golden jewels, silver spike on. Okay, cool. Wicked. So, I'm just gonna. It's quite dark where I am in here because I've got my backdrop up covered. I've not got much light coming in at the moment. Maybe I could open the curtains a bit. So yeah, I'll do that. So I'll be a bit. I want to be able to see a bit brighter in here. Ah, right, okay, so it's got a little bit brighter in here with me opening a couple of curtains. I had the curtains shut to stop so much sunlight coming in, but it's all good. I've got the aircon on, can probably hear that. Apologies, but I need that aircon on. I can't let my pooch get too hot. I've also got some Battlefleet Gothic ships that I've been working on for my client. I've made a mistake there that I need to paint over, but other than that, they're done. I told him a week ago that I would send him pictures, and I forgot. But the main thing is I'm getting these done, and then I've got like another, I don't know, 10 models I think to paint for him. 10, 15 models, something like that. And then I'll be done for that commission. And I've got a Astra Militarum commission to be done as well, which uh, I'll stream me building the models for that, because there's some really cool. There's two really cool tanks from Forge World, which um, I've never built. The only tank I've built from Forge World before was the old Spartan. Um, After they put the tracks on the Spartan, so um, yeah. Right, bit of water. Don't need much water with Pro Acryl's primer. I'm not gonna be going over every single model in full. Right, I'm just gonna, make sure that any metal showing is covered up. Make sure it's spraying nicely. It's like when using contrast colours, obviously I don't, normally if it had like a few chips of metal, it wouldn't matter, I'd just paint over it. But obviously I don't want that when I'm using like contrast style paints. I'm only using these as like I'm going to just be testing out the Vallejo, so the odds are the Vallejo Express colours won't be the end product of the models, because I want these models to look really good at the end of the day. But let's see how good the Express colours come out. I don't know what to expect. I've not used them. Like I say, I've used the Lotus Black, and I think I've used the Velvet Red on some Islands ears. It looked quite a darkish red, similar to Flesh Terror Red. I actually wanted a brighter red, so I ended up using Blood Angels Red from Citadel. These are going to need a good varnishing once they're painted, because of being metal. I mean, when I first started commission painting, it's crazy. I never used to varnish my models, but I do now, because especially if with the base rims, they just get bashed about, and base material over time comes off, and it's just way more professional if you varnish afterwards. Yeah, you just have to be a bit careful, because if you do paint all the normal colours and then you paint metallics, you have to bear in mind that varnish can alter how the metallic looks. So I tend to use a spray can varnish, or just a light matte, or a light semi matte varnish, because I don't want to completely kill off the metallics, but also I don't want the normal colours to be shining. So there's a fine balance with um, your varnishes, your lacquers, on what's best to use. Quite often I'll varnish a model and then paint the varnish on, sorry, do the varnish and then do the metallics. Oh, because metallics are a lot more hardy to being knocked about and whatever. So Or you can do like a layer of varnish, do your metallics, and then do another really super light coat of matte, um, just to give it that little bit of protection without dulling the metal down. Because the way matte varnish works is the more layers you put on or build up with it, if you put it on super thick at first, it comes out looking quite glossy. If you do several matte layers, it makes dog stuff down more. Um, yeah, I know what I'm trying to say. So I need to add a bit more paint to this mix in the airbrush cup because it's blowing about all over the place, a bit watery. I'm making my mixes a little bit more watery than usual because of the heat. It's about 28 degrees in here. But if you drop in, please say hi. Um, yeah. Also, with metal models, it's quite hard to see some of the mold lines um, until they've been primed. So sometimes you just have to scrape the mold line off and then re-prime over it, or just get on with painting it. But if you're going to use something like, I can see some bad mold lines on that one. If when you're going to be using express color or any contrast paint, you need to paint back over that first. So um, yeah. So like, oh, I didn't realise I'd been doing most of this off camera. Um, this paint is going so quick. Oh. This time of year, if you're in England, when you're airbrushing, oh, depending on where and just setup, I guess. But I get a lot of water in my water trap in my airbrush, um, and if you don't empty that regularly, it interferes with your air. But this time of year in England, you absolutely need a water trap. I've actually got two. I've got one that's on the compressor, that's part of my air compressor, and then I've got this inline one just before the airbrush, because you wouldn't believe how much water still gets in the airline. And normally I hate getting models that have already been pre-primed because people have always tend to prime straight over mold lines, and then it doesn't make me look good. Um, it makes taking pictures of the models virtually impossible. So then, I end up looking like I have huge gaps in like months where I've worked because I've had times where where I've not posted work because there's mold lines all over stuff. So I just try and get rid of them now. I'm just going to have a look at a few, scrape them off, re airbrush back over them again, and let's get this light going on in here again. Don't need it to be that bright. Just need just having a quick look at the mold lines. This like mold lines are so much easier to. I don't mind painting metal, other than you have to take extra steps to, make sure it's been varnished properly and stuff. I don't mind painting metal models. It can just be a pain with mold line removal, flash, these awful slot bases. Like I'm gonna have to fill them in with modelling putty, but that's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. I'm not gonna cry about that. Right, so this one's got quite a nasty one on the leg. It goes down her side of her body as well, so, and it is really noticeable. So I'm just going to scrape that off. So yeah, I gave up streaming on Twitch for a while, and I'm just I thought, do you know what? I can't really do a set schedule at the moment because commission work. I've been very disorganised, just with things happening. My dad died in January, and I've been really disorganised. I was disorganised before that, but since he passed away, I've been struggling to get back into the swing of things properly. I'll have a good couple of days, and then I'll have a day where I just don't want to do anything. So, um, but I was kind of hiding it a little bit from my other half, and then I ended up sort of kind of coming clean, I guess, about just that I wasn't really getting much work done and I was struggling. Um, because she'll ring me when she's at work and on her break, and she'll be like, "Oh, how's work coming along?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it's fine." I'm not telling her that I haven't even lifted a paintbrush and stuff. And obviously, it's not good for clients when I'm not sending work back in reasonable amount of time. I had someone's army for nearly 5 months, uh, which isn't good. So obviously, I had to knock that on the head. Really, I had to really just I had to dig deep and just get on with things. I've got a Harlequin job that's very nearly done, and I should have done that weeks ago as well. So I'm 90% of the way there now. It's crazy. Um, I never thought losing someone well, I never thought that me losing my dad would hit me so hard. We didn't always see eye to eye really, and I hadn't hardly spoken to him in over a year. Um, just because I don't know. He wasn't always the nicest person to be around, but I still loved him, and it affected me massively. I wish it hadn't, but then if it hadn't have affected me, then I wouldn't have cared about him, and I'm glad that I'm not a complete heartless so and so. So, uh, yeah, one of them things, isn't it? All right, now I'm going to have to leave this light on. I'm just going to try and raise it because I really don't want any overspray. But I'm going to leave the light on just so I can see that little bit better. Um, just cover up where I've scraped away or little bits I missed because um, like there is the odd bit that I haven't scraped away that I hadn't noticed on the first pass that needed to be airbrushed. And you can be here all day scraping like every single little mould line on a metal model, but the thing to do is just um, make sure you've got the ones that can be viewed easily out of the way. If they're on the underside of a limb, if you don't notice it unless you're turning the model upside down, then I wouldn't worry so much. But when you're, but if you can see it under the model when you hold it at certain angles, then that's the sort of time you do need to remove it. So he wants different skin tones. So I've got I've only got one of the Citadel contrast paint flesh colours. I'll see what Vallejo have, but I mean they've got plenty of browns in their set, so I'll try brown as well. And I can also adjust the sort of tones they are. See, with being Amazon, they don't all want to be Caucasian. I sort of think of like Brazilians, Colombians, you know, where you get a Brazil, you get a good range of coloured skin over there. You know, right through to chocolate, right through to pasty white like me. So I will try and show that with these models. I guess I don't know. Amazon's kind of, I don't know where the Amazon is. I'm really bad. Where is the Amazon rainforest? I should know that, shouldn't I? Anyway, right. Right, well that's drying. Let's turn the airbrush off. Um, while they're drying, get more of my brushes down here. Uh, let's have a look at some of my. Let's have a look at some of the Vallejo Express colours and work out what. So we wanted green, blue, yellow. Right. Oh, I got a nice bright yellow there. Imperial yellow. I think that'll come out like Iyanden yellow from Citadel. It has a similar sort of tone to it. Cardinal purple. Templar white. Right, we'll get the Express medium out because that'll be good to thin stuff down. Um, Plague green. I'll probably stay away from that one. I'm glad we've got that. Nuclear yellow. So that's more like an orangey one, I guess. Black Lotus. Um, Troll green. That looks like a nice green. We'll try that. Deep purple. Snake green. I'll put some of that on the palette, but I think that troll green is going to be better for what I have in my head. Now we want some nice blues. Talasar blue from Citadel. I'll probably be digging that out, but I do have a very similar blue. I think it's Mystic blue. I'll find it in a moment. I've got the full AliExpress colour range because Space Grey, no. Plague Bearer Flesh, that's obviously Games Workshop. Gloomy Violet, no. Plasma Red. Now that's the red I probably should have used rather than Velvet Red the other day, because that Plasma Red looks brighter. Caribbean Turquoise, ooh, okay. We'll have a look at that. Storm Blue, that's going to be too dark. Dwarf Skin, absolutely. Omega Blue, that looks super dark. Martian Orange. Lizard Green, we'll have a look at that as well. We've got quite a few greens in this set. Orc Skin, no. And Wasteland Brown. So I don't know what I did with my Mystic Blue. Yeah, that's not a good start, is it? That was the main blue I definitely wanted because I've used it and know how it behaves, and I know what the final colour looks like. It's probably somewhere on my desk, but all is not lost, because if I can't find it, then I have Talassar Blue to fall back on. I'll just have to right, so we've got Dwarf Skin. Now, I've got Dark Oath Flesh by Citadel, and I'm going to use some Wildwood, which is Mega Dark Brown, to try and figure out some different skin tones. And I'll get out some Contrast Medium as well. I'll use that pot that's nearly empty. Yeah, and then I don't know what I've done with half my bloody colours. Coxigore Scales is not a bad blue actually. I don't know what I've done with my. So not only have I misplaced my Talassar, my Mystic Blue by Vallejo, I've also misplaced my Talassar Blue. Well, that's not the best start I wanted, but never mind. Right, so I might be throwing out some of the other Citadel colours if I don't get on with these. If I think these are like the wrong tones or something, but I think I'm going to be just fine. So let's start off with. Let's have a look how this dwarf skin looks. The only thing with contrast paints, you just can't tell what colour they are until you sort of start painting them on. So get a random brush out of my many millions I have here. How's this looking? Uh, it's probably going to look a bit cold and boring over a white primer, because skin colours look much warmer when they're over like a Wraithbone rather than a white primer. But this is looking kind of dark at the moment. Interesting. This is the only flesh colour that Vallejo presently do, so I've gone quite light with it and it's come out quite dark looking. So I'm not sure. That's great for darker skin tones, but Caucasian, I think I'm going to be going with dark. Funny enough, the flesh colour called Darko Flesh by GW. So yeah, that's fine. We'll see what it's like when it's dry. I do want some darker skin tones in this team, so we'll see how we get on. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my lights correct. I'm looking at my stream on a couple of screens. On one of my screens it looks super bright, but then I remember I turned the brightness right up on that screen when I was watching something recently that was really dark and dingy. Okay, it's not so dark, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's a strange skin tone. Um, I wouldn't say it's a realistic skin tone by any means. So I'll have to see what. It might be over this primer. I'll have to see how Darko Flesh copes. Um, it might just be because I'm going over a white primer rather than a coloured one, like a Wraithbone or a. I mean, if it was over a grey, it'd look even worse. But on camera or on screen on YouTube, this might look quite bright, but believe me, it's not. It's. I wouldn't even say it's like a tanned Caucasian skin. It's a very weird, very, very odd skin tone. Um, yeah, a little odd. That's okay. Well, it needs fixing. We'll fix it. This lady has a mask on. Got to paint her butt as well because that's on show. They don't have many clothes on. Okay, right. So, um, let's use some Darko Flesh by Citadel, and we'll see how that looks. The key might just be adding a bit of medium. Um, I'm going to put some of this on the palette. I mean, the Vallejo one they've called Dwarf Skin. It's a good colour for dwarfs. It's a little too dark for my liking. Um, it's got some strange tones to it. I think there's a lot of. I'm reading it as there being a lot of purple in it, although I could be completely wrong. I'd need to study it against other colours. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm very impressed with the dwarf skin colour. But we'll see. We'll see how I get on. Um, I already think this Dark Oath by Games Workshop is a nicer colour and brighter than, and a bit more realistic than the Dwarf Flesh. The Dwarf Flesh seems to lack any life to it. It looks kind of weird. Um, Struggling to try and figure out how to describe it. Um, I haven't tried the other two. There's a couple of other flesh colours that Citadel do. I've tried the Gilliman flesh and I really hated that. I didn't like it at all. And then there's Fyreslayer flesh, which is, I guess, the one they developed for dwarves. And um, when I've watched other people using it, it looks nice, but um, like it looks brighter than Dark Oath and more, bit more red and yellow in it. But um, I don't know. We'll see. The other thing about the Vallejo colours is, and it's true to an extent for the Citadels, is they're not always the same. Once they dry, the colour can change quite a bit. It's a little unnerving and can be a little odd at times. Iyanden yellow looks like a hot mustardy mess when you first put it on, but then it dries and it's actually quite a nice yellow with a bit of depth to it, which is the one thing that um, I think contrast colours lack. They lack depth to, like, yeah, they're shaded, but they still lack real depth. They're just a way of getting colours onto a model quickly. So okay, that's not a leg. That's like some. I'll paint it as a leg. Trying to work out if that's material, if it's a calf. I'm going to paint as if it's her leg. So let's have a look at the colours. They're actually almost identical. So this one here on my right is the Dwarf Skin by Vallejo. It is a touch darker and it's more brown. This is slightly fairer skinned. So I guess if you mix the touch of brown with the Dwarf Skin by Vallejo, you could get a very dark um, you could get a very dark and realistic, like Afro-Caribbean skin tone. We'll just let's mix them two together. I mean, it doesn't matter if it comes out. If it comes out stupid dark, I'll highlight it and it'll just become a recessed shade. But I think Games Workshop struggle with their darker flesh tones because their idea is like just making a dark brown that has a bit of red in it, sort of thing. And was it Catachan flesh or something? It doesn't look right at all to me, but black skin still has a lot of tones in it that are similar to Caucasian skin. So this is just wild Citadel's Wildwood mixed with the War Flesh by um, Vallejo. It's a good way of seeing if they mix or whatever, which they do, and it doesn't change how they behave. They still behave like a contrast style paint, which is cool. And I just mix these up on my wet palette, which probably isn't very wet at the moment because of the heat. But um, about a 50-50 mix. But you know, when it's a skin tone, I never bother being meticulous with my mixes or trying to be too consistent. And you know, unless because I mix up enough to go on one model, and then if it's not quite the same on the next model, it never matters really. Like in real life, no two people have the exact same skin tone, so um, yeah, just have to try and make sure I have enough for the model that I'm actually painting at the time. Which you know, if you're just starting out painting, it's always better to mix up a bit more than you think, and you'll soon get the hang of it. Now, these Amazon ladies from Blood Bowl are quite cool. I like them. Um, back in the days when models were had a lot less trinkets and things going on with them. Games Workshop have a habit these days of really overcomplicating their sculpts, even on models that should be minimalist. I think that's because they think it's more interested to the person painting, but that's not always how it translates. And anywhere I've gone over the wrong colours or whatever, that I'm doing another Citadel colour on, I'll touch up with go back and touch up with white. At the moment, that's not my concern. At the moment, my main concern is getting all the skin tones done on the whole team, seeing how they look, you know, making sure I've got enough variation in skin tones, all that kind of thing. Let's see if I can tell the difference between which was the. I forget which one was. Right, so that one was the Games Workshop one. It is actually quite a bit lighter. Yeah, I mean, I love Darko Flesh by Games Workshop. It seems really realistic to me. Um, I'd love them to be able to do like a pale flesh colour, and but I tell you what, let's try. Let's get Make sure all my brushes clean. Let's get some contrast medium on the palette. Let's mix up. So about 50-50 contrast medium and Darko Flesh. Let's see how. It's just a little experiment with the. See if it makes the skin tone look different or. Because the only times I ever really use contrast medium is because a colour's simply too strong, not too dark, but more too strong. But I want the flesh tones to be quite punchy, so I don't want this to look washed out from using contrast medium. I want to actually, I guess to really shift the skin tone, I'd have to add the colours into it or mix one up from scratch. So I very nearly busted out the oils to paint these. I should have done. But I really wanted to get these Vallejo Express colours to go, and also I want to get these painted and dry by tomorrow so that I can get them sent off. They could potentially dry by tomorrow with painting with oils, but I usually only use oils if I've got a few days to, really let them dry fully, and then I can varnish. I love using oils though for miniatures. I'm gonna start doing some video showcasing that soon. So let's have a look. So this one was the dark oak without. Yeah, it looks. So now I've added contrast medium. You can see more red in it, and it's gone quite pinkish. It's not a bad tone. The only thing with these metal models is contrast paints don't work the best with them. They work much nicer with plastic because there's all these little divots and imperfections in metal, and a normal acrylic paint will hide that, but these contrast paints really show that up, all the little divots and things in the models. So okay, so I mixed Wildwood with some dwarf flesh. Let's try some with the Darko Flesh and contrast mix. That's a very dark. I'll tell you what we'll do on this one first. I'm going to make sure that no two models have some of the models are identical, so I'm going to make sure that no two models that have identical poses have similar skin tones. I've got a little bit of a little hair or something there. Let's try and smooth out this leg. It looks quite bad at me. But again, I'm not relying on these contrast colours being the finished article. I will paint over these where I need to. I like using contrast colours as like a to map something, and also get paint on something quickly. So if you know, have no idea over what colour to use with what, um, whacking some contrast colours or contrast style colours like these Vallejo ones that I'm using as well, um, you get some colour on quick. And if something's way off, then you can adjust it easily by just painting over it with acrylic. But if you have no idea how to paint, like what colours to use, it's a good place to start, because you don't want to be spending forever and a day painting a model and then deciding that you don't like the tones, or you want to go with a red instead of a blue or something. So they're good for that. But I like them for colour mapping because, especially things like yellows, for instance, um, yellow's a really hard colour to work with, um, as many people know. And using a contrast yellow first really helps with just rather than sitting there doing 10 layers of yellow, you whack a contrast yellow one, then you'll only need one coat of your subsequent yellow to look good. I'm just adding this model's quite dark in some places and not in others, so I'm just trying to add a bit more contrast to certain bits so it looks a bit more realistic. Under the arms and stuff. That back leg's really dark and it's gone quite patchy, so that model's just gonna have to be painted, I think. Um, that's okay. Now let's see, how can we adjust that paint? If we add a bit of yellow to it, see if we can get a more. Just want one drop. We'll add a bit of we'll add a bit of the express medium to this. And see how that affects the skin tone. Try and make it a bit more olivey. Hmm. Okay. Not sure what I'm making that yet. It doesn't look very different from. Oh, now I like this colour. And adding a load of Vallejo medium has really made this flow nice. Wow. Maybe that's a trick there. Maybe adding more medium when it comes to metal models anyway. This is flowing into the recesses much nicer. And I'm not getting any of the streaking that I've had on a couple of the earlier models. So maybe that's the trick. A lot of reviews said that all the Vallejo Express colours are more consistent. You know, Games Workshop ones, they don't all behave the same, but apparently the Vallejo ones do. So I don't think it's the adding the yellow that helped. I think maybe adding the more of the medium helped. It's not streaking as much. It's definitely finding the recesses better. Be interesting to see how this looks in a few minutes. Um, yeah, and I seem to be getting a bit longer to work with it as well. It's not. I'm touching a couple of places where I've already painted. It's not all. It's not going a bit funky. The Vallejo stuff definitely gives you longer working time than the Games Workshop paints, that's for sure. But this is Games Workshop with a bit of Vallejo Express colour added to it, and wow, I really like that. I mean, if you've got your brightness quite high on your screen, this will look almost Caucasian, but um, I've managed to get a I'd say a very mixed race look with this colour. Yeah, it's definitely darker than that one. But that one it's gone really dark on the leg and then not everywhere else. So I don't know what to do with that one. I think I'm just gonna have to paint that one over. Here's one that adds slightly. Yeah, so they're all kind of different. Oh, battery's low on my laptop. I'll just grab my charger real quick. Right, there we go. So 3 viewers in stream. Well, thank you for that. I know that I'm one of them, so is the other two people. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate you stopping by. If you want to ask any questions or you want to chat, then please do. Because at the moment, I'm kind of talking to myself a little bit. But anyway, so I've tried mixing a brown with a flesh tone adding a bit of yellow to just lighten up that brown a little bit to try and make more of a mixed race kind of skin tone. I'm going to try just a pure dwarf skin, adding a bit of yellow, um, see if I can come up with like a strange olivey kind of skin tone. It doesn't need to be super realistic at this scale, but let's try a 50-50 dwarf skin with some uh, imperial yellow. I mean, I might try the more orangey yellow as well. You know, I do want to try a fair few different colours with these, even though they're... Okay, no idea what that's going to come out like. I don't know why I test on my skin, because contrasty style colours never... Let's add a bit of the medium. So I just did 2 drops of everything, 2 drops of dwarf skin, 2 drops of imperial yellow, and 2 drops of the medium. It looks like a strange bony kind of wash colour on the palette. Let's see what I get. I'm actually really liking this colour. See, I'm experimenting as well for like future projects as well, because this is all really handy to sort of know what colours work with what. Um, I think Vallejo are bringing out more colours soon, because at the minute they got like 30, 35 I think, and then no 30. They got 32, but that includes the medium I believe. Um, when I ordered the whole set, I was waiting a few weeks for it because they were waiting for the medium to come in stock, and in the end I just said, like, just send me the set. And I actually found someone else online that had the medium in stock. Just because I was getting a bit impatient, I wanted to try them out, and I had Golden Demon coming up, and I thought it might help, but I didn't even have time to get my Golden Demon stuff done anyway, let alone mess around with new paints. So it's never a good idea to mess around with new paints on something like a Golden Demon entry either, unless you're a year away, like we are at the moment. Okay, I think adding that, I think adding that yellow made it closer to the... It definitely made it more olivey. Yeah, made it closer to the Darko Flesh, but also made it kind of... It is quite yellow now. It's drying. Let's make sure I've got everywhere. One of my really bad habits is that, like, with contrast paint, sometimes you get these little weird white patches where the paint hasn't quite flowed into. And one of my really bad habits is not noticing that, and then noticing hours later that I've got all these little white patches on a model, and it's really weird how they dry. I think it's where the paint dries and it contracts. Um, you don't get it if you absolutely flood the model, but I don't like doing that, because despite how Games Workshop and Co market their contrast paints, they actually work better if you paint them with some level of control rather than excuse me, rather than just like chucking it on a model. No, I really like that. I really like how that colour's come out. It's also actually quite, when that dries, I'm gonna have to compare that to my own skin, because I think that's actually quite a close. See, I've painted it there, and where it's drying on my skin, it's it's not very dark. So compared to the others, so no, that's cool. All right, Lady with the ball. The ball's going to be like a very, very reddish brown. I want that to, be coloured like an American kind of football. So, let's get more of this wildwood. And this lady, I'm going to add just a little bit of that mix in to what I made. But then it's going to be wildwood. And I'll add a bit of the Vallejo medium because then I don't have to wash my brush off and dip back into the. God, my palette's curling up where my palette's getting too dry. Right. I see contrast paints I found kind of congealed a little bit on wet palettes. This Vallejo stuff isn't doing it, and also the Citadels aren't doing it when I mix them with the Vallejo stuff, which is cool, isn't it? So yeah, hopefully that adding the medium will, even though I only added a small bit, will stop it coffee staining the way Wildwood was on one of the other models I did. Okay, it's looking better so far than the other one did. Because, I don't paint enough like models with dark skin tone, so I was really chuffed when the gentleman who I'm painting these models for basically asked for a range of skin tones. I was super happy. I was like, yes, finally. The thing is, people never really specify it, and I don't ask, and I really should. Okay, I'm really liking this one. Really liking this skin tone. Absolutely fantastic, this one. I plugged in my PC, but it's saying that the battery's really low. I don't understand that. That better? Yeah, here we go. Huge block that the power brick, basically, the plug had come out of that slightly, so it wasn't actually charging my laptop when I plugged it in. So I'm glad my laptop warned me, or else that would have been end of stream. I'm not sure how I would have taken that. I'm not sure if I'd have cried and then come back on or what I would have done. Because I don't cope very well with setbacks at the moment. Ah, super like this. I think for the ball, I'm going to make a mixture of snake white leather and red, like Flesh Terror's red or something. And I'll go with that because I know what the. I'll have a look at the. I'll have a look at the Vallejo ones actually. The idea is that I see what they're like. I can't do that if I keep reverting to the Citadel range. It's just I really do like the Citadel range. Well, I really like that colour. It's not come out too streaky. Like I've got like a weird coffee stain going on there, but it's actually in a place where it can look like a shadow. So I've just made it look more like a shadow and less like a coffee stain. Oh, really like that. Really impressed with that. So she's the only lady with the ball. I just need to make sure. I just don't want to paint them all with the same, skin colour. Let's add a bit more into that. A bit more of that funky, weird, olivey skin colour I made. Let's get this done. I think there's 10 figures here altogether. There's also like a cheerleader woman that I haven't got out yet. But I will paint probably tomorrow separately from these. Um, my main focus today was get the team finished and get the Battlefleet Gothic barges, Space Marine barges, all done today. And yeah, just get them done basically. I wanted to get the skin done by end of the stream, and then I can. I'm not planning on streaming for hours and hours on end today. I just needed to get back into the hang of things, and Twitch is like you can't even make affiliate unless you get several people viewing you at the same time, and you can't. You have to get a certain amount of followers. Um, YouTube, I'm so far away with all of their goals to get monetized and whatever that I'm not even focusing on it. So my goals are different, which means I'm actually more relaxed painting on YouTube than I am Twitch. So it's crazy, right? Because Twitch are absolute garbage with helping new streamers. And I mentioned it to them. I pointed out that like they do nothing to help new streamers. You have to have like 5 people watching you before you even get seen on like the home screen of people. But how do you have 5 people watching you when you're new? You have to even getting your friends to watch isn't easy because your friends have lives and your friends are busy. And yeah, and your friends, your close friends anyway, aren't going to be the ones that keep your channel going and help grow your channel. It's going to be new people. But new people don't discover you unless you already have a core following. And when I brought this up with Twitch, their response was, "Oh, that's a that is an interesting situation. We would suggest doing short form content because that's where the market is going now." And it's like, no, it's not. Like, yeah, okay, there is a market for for TikTok, and there's YouTube Shorts now, and there's Reels on Instagram, etc. But none of them, none of them are the reason why people don't grow on Twitch. And I don't think using them platforms necessarily helps you grow on Twitch. I think them platforms help you grow probably more of an audience on YouTube. But hey, what would I know? Uh, but I know that some big Twitch streamers have left them recently over their advertising rules. So who knows what will happen? Right, so I've got 3 left. Um, just trying to think what colours I should go with. Maybe if I add just a tiny bit of turquoise into a skin colour. And by tiny I mean not even a... Oh look, there's my Mystic Blue. There we go. Turquoise isn't really a good colour to be adding in, but I should probably be adding like a dark blue or a grey. But let's add a blue. Oh, we'll add a blue. We'll add a couple of yellows. A couple of dwarf skins. A bunch of the medium. Let's see what colour we get. I'm adding that blue just to make the skin look a bit dirty and a bit more... I don't know. Hopefully, well, the idea is it looks a bit older. Looking quite light at the moment. Right, okay. Let's go for it. So this has got blue, yellow, dwarf skin and dwarf skin in it. And a load of medium. So I'll do this one first, and if she looks garbage, I'll... Thing is, once you've added medium, you can't take it away and make it look darker. You can only ever make contrast style paints lighter or less heavy, I guess is the word. But adding these other colours and still having a colour that resembles skin tells me that this dwarf skin is quite a strong colour. You know, there's a pigments in it are quite strong. I mean, blue is usually a very strong pigment, and I added a drop of that into this, and it hasn't overpowered the overriding skin tone at all. So yeah, um, that's an interesting find. So Where's that other olivey one? Yeah, I mean that's even more like yellow. So um, what I'm gonna do space grey. Let's try and add a bit of that. Just gonna make sure I've got everything I need to on this model. Yeah, add a bit of space grey. See if I can dirty the. I just want to dirty the flesh tone up a bit. Oh, that's made quite a difference on the palette. So let's see how that looks. That's definitely shifted. But rather than mixing it into a whole mix, I only added it to a small part that was on my palette. So the ratio of space grey to the skin color, skin tone I'd already mixed up is quite big. So wow, I'll have to see how this looks when it dries. I'm not quite sure whether I like it at the minute. It looks quite like a bone colour at the moment, but we'll see. We'll see. I might just need to, if I have to go over it again, then I'll just really thin down like dwarf skin and go over it to try and really try and fix it. But at the moment, I'm really not sure what I think of that. But it's not no one's fault because it's a weird mix that I've done. You know, there's a bit of blue in there, there's a bit of yellow, a fair bit of dwarf skin, and then there's a bit of quite a bit of this space grey in there. So that's no wonder that the skin tone might look a bit dodgy. Um, I have a weird skin tone. I'm quite olivey skinned. Oh, get rid of that streak. Shouldn't have done that. Should have left it well alone. Right, I'll see how that looks when that's dry. I'm not so sure on that one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, okay, 12. Um, right, maybe I'll add more dwarf skin into that, riching it up a bit. Yeah, but this will still be a different colour from all the others. Ah, see, adding a bit of dwarf skin to that weird mix I just made just completely shifted it again. This dwarf skin colour is very, very potent. Very. You know, there's probably 4 drops worth of mix and I added 1 drop of dwarf skin to it and it's completely shifted it, which isn't a bad thing. Be interesting to see how this dries, if it's going to end up looking similar to the other more Caucasian skin tones that I've painted on. Be a bit annoying if it comes out looking the same, because it's like, oh, I did all these weird mixes for nothing and I've learnt nothing other than I've not discovered any cool mixes. All I've discovered is that dwarf skin is a very, very potent express colour. But hey, we'll see. We'll see what it comes out like. It's not dry yet. Until they dry, it's a little hard to tell with these express colours and contrast style paints. We shall see. Oh, I don't know what to make of that. Oh. No, it is lighter. It is more olivey. So it's just getting the mix right. So this is the straight dwarf skin. It is quite red, but adding yellow, blue, and a bit of wolf grey, obviously not too much, you can really shift. You can mess around with the tones, and I've made quite an olivey skin tone there. And then I've got a few darker skin tones here. Um, I wanted a couple that looked Afro-Caribbean, and I've got a couple that slightly lighter toned, more mixed race. Um, yeah, I can't really judge the Vallejo colours because I've been mixing in so much of the Citadel Games Workshop stuff, but I'm not going to lie, I'm quite happy with these, apart from that colour's a bit weird. What I might do is add a load more medium to that. I'll add a dwarf skin on its own. And mix a lot of the medium in with it, well, like 4:1 or something. And go over this skin because it's very strange at the moment. It's looking very red now, but it looks too yellow. Now I'm painting over this, but at the moment, before doing that, it looked way too yellow. Looks like she looks zombie-esque. But that's cool because I've got some Galapox infected that I'm going to do with like contrast, and I was gonna, I was debating whether to use oils on them, and then I was like, no, I'll go with contrast and like come up with some really cool funky skin tones and really do some lessons on mixing different skin colours and adding weird colours to your palette to come up with different tones, and like make a video out of it, like a kind of like a tutorial. And this has definitely helped sway my mind with that. I think I'll be using some of the. I'll definitely think I'll be using the Vallejo range on the Galapox infected, but really, really thinning down the dwarf skin. It's still quite a strong colour, but adding it over that horrible, sickly, dead skin mix I made has completely shifted that and made it look more like actual skin. So it's made it more like that one. which is odd. But yeah, although maybe not because that one was that weird mix, but with Dwarfskin added, ultimately I end up with nearly the same colour, putting Dwarfskin over the top. So yeah, there's a few takeaways, I guess. The few takeaways being that Dwarfskin, at least, I haven't really tried it with Darko Flesh, but the Dwarfskin, the Vallejo colour, is very, very potent. Adding yellow and grey, adding yellow to it doesn't make much difference. So the yellow is not a very strong colour on its own, I don't believe. But I'm going to touch up all the bits of white that need to be different colours, and then I'm going to do all the feathers and stuff in like yellows and greens, and their tabards in yellows and greens, and maybe just their knees and shoulder, elbow pads will be like blue or something. Um, yeah, but that's all I'm going to do today. How long have I been streaming for? I don't even know how long I've been streaming for. Crazy that. Doesn't say. Okay, I've been on here for an hour and a half. If you've been watching, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But just to recap, I've been testing out the Vallejo Express colours. A few of them, not all of them. Mainly the Dwarfskin, but I mixed the blue and the green and some yellows in with the colours, and I also used Darko Flesh by Citadel and Citadel's Wildwood to come up with some different skin tones for these really ancient Amazon um, Blood Bowl teams. So you can see I've got loads of different skin tones here, loads. Just by thinning them down, adding different colours to them, mixing dwarf skin with wildwood, for example. That one's really patchy, so I'm gonna have to just repaint that. But yeah, I've got a good range of skin tones here, which I'm really happy with, which is what the customer wanted, the client. So I'm gonna call it a day there. Keep an eye out for more streams. I'm gonna aim to stream on Monday, Wednesday, Friday afternoons. Maybe not Wednesdays yet. I'll work that out in the future. Because my partner's off work on Wednesdays, so I need to figure out what's best for me and her. But I'll be on YouTube on Mondays and Fridays at the very least, and I'm on Twitch Tuesdays and Thursdays from between 7 and 8 a.m. British time. I'm still quite small on Twitch, so I've kind of gave up on there, but I am going to start on there again. So if you're about, then please drop in. I might just have to alter my times if I don't get anywhere with Twitch, to be honest.